For millennia, this bird has heralded the onset of summer in Ireland. But not anymore. As Ireland's traditional grass meadows have disappeared, so too has the corncrake. Now, only a few hundred arrive every year. They simply have nowhere left to go.
It's crucial to study the migration of these globally endangered species. Because if we are to understand how to conserve them properly, we need to understand everything about them. We need to understand their movements, their life expectancy. We need to understand where the young birds go. We need to understand where the adults go. And we also need to understand each staging post that these birds stop and refuel as they move to their wintering quarters.
The story of tracking animals in the wild is a tale that began just over a century ago, when the very first tags were systematically placed on animals to try and discover where they disappeared to. And in 1912 came the most astonishing result from an animal that was as familiar as its journey was mysterious.
Migration is probably the one thing that has always captured my imagination. And at that moment when I learned about swallows and the journey that swallows made, that fascinated me. It's an incredible thing. It's breathtaking to think that something that weighs 2/3 the weight of a bag of crisps can fly 10,000 kilometres.
Every year, Declan Manley puts rings on swallows near his home in County Offaly. Declan is continuing a tradition that threw some of the first chinks of light on the mysterious world of bird migration.
Since 2001, I would have started ringing swallows to see are the same ones coming back and to see what the survival rates of them are like. Most of what I ring are adult swallows. There would be quite a high mortality rate among the young birds. The adults have a more likely chance of returning. I'd also be hoping that somebody else may catch some of them on the way, and that will help to plot the route that they're taking and even how long it's taking them, because they could be ringed here possibly in August, September, and they may be in Spain by the end of September, so we can ascertain how quickly they're moving or what months they're in which particular countries.
Everyone knew that swallows disappeared to the south. The big question was, how far did they go? One of the prime staging posts before they head off into the unknown is here in County Wexford.
Tecumseh Lake is probably my favourite birding place. From August to October, everything is on the move. They're taking their last feed and they're moving out. You need to be able to take on enough fuel to make the journey. Because if you run out of fuel, you crash land. And for a bird that crash lands out at sea, that's the end of it.
It was exactly 100 years ago that the first swallows were ringed on these islands. And then, in 1912, an English solicitor got a letter about a ring he'd placed on a young swallow in central England the year before. The origin of that letter blew away every notion about just how far these tiny birds could travel. The letter was from South Africa. This is KwaZulu-Natal, where the open Indian Ocean meets the southeast coast of Africa. just 10 kilometres inland, is one of the most important bird sites in Africa. Surrounded by hills of sugarcane is a tiny reed bed, a magnet for birds born more than a continent away.
Journeying all the way down to South Africa, I mean, I'm 10,000 kilometres away from home, and here I am overlooking an area where barn swallows, European barn swallows, or as we call them in Ireland, just swallows. This is the actual journey they make. I suppose for me, it makes the journey real. And it's possible that some of the birds that are flying over this area are birds that have bred in Ireland, that I may have seen at Tecumseh in County Wexford, that may have been ringed by Declan Manley in County Offaly.
It used to be a lake. There used to be yachts on here at one stage. The lake dried up and the reeds started growing, and then a bit of water's come in and it's just developed into this wonderful reed bed. Well, as far as we're concerned, this site is very special. It's known as the largest roost site in southern Africa. For the barn swallows, it's crucial. It hosts in excess of 1% of the world's population of these birds during their winter stay in Africa. If you think about a migrant bird, the first bird you think about is a humble little swallow. It's probably known as the world's greatest migrant bird. It travels from Europe to Africa and back every single year. And they'll come back to this very same reed bed every single year. How do they do it? We don't know.
During the day, the reed beds of Mount Moorland are quiet. But once the sun sinks below the hills, it's a very different story. Out of the dusk, tiny shadows start to appear. First they come in their tens, then hundreds, then in their thousands. Come evening, the skies above play host to one of Africa's great wildlife gatherings. 3 million birds.
I've seen lots of things over the years, birding all around the world. I have to say, it's just, I feel I'm lost for words. And what gets me is sitting here in South Africa. It's very possible that 10,000 kilometres further south, some of the birds I was seeing in Wexford are the same birds that are flying around here. It's just an amazing journey when you think about it.
You can see most of these came back out of the reed bed.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
You see, they were spooked in the reeds by something, and they've come in at a huge rate of knots.
Yeah. And once they're in the bag,
that's
they
normally
just...
how a swallow would come out.
Yeah, yeah. You're okay. You're okay.
Also immatures.
Yeah.
Tonight, 200 swallows will receive rings they will carry across the earth for the rest of their lives.
What weight is the average weight of these birds?
20.
I mean, that's like 4 or 5 grams in the difference.
Safring's database on the barn swallows has shown that the birds from KwaZulu-Natal here have finished up in 7 countries in Europe, England being one of them, which is pretty close to Ireland, so there's always a good chance that we're going to get one of our birds there.
17 grams.
It's unbelievable to think why they have to do it. I don't know. It's one of the mysteries. Maybe it's abundance of food down here. I mean, Spain and the southern side of Europe, to me, should be warm enough to live there. If they leave southern Europe, they've got to cross the Mediterranean and then the Sahara before they start getting back into food habitat area for them. So why do it?
Okay. It's so important to understand all of the points on their journey. And this data that we're collecting, that the people like Andrew are doing here and people like Declan Manley are doing in Ireland, it is that work that is revealing the true extent of the journey these birds make. Yeah, he's fine. That's an adult bird. But you know, I hope you're an Irish bird. And I wish you the very best of luck this winter. And I'm sure I'll see you in Ireland next year. Off you go.
Leaving South Africa, the swallows head north, covering perhaps 300 kilometres a day. Reaching North Africa, the birds take a left turn and head through Spain and France, before the very last stretch to Ireland. With 10,000 kilometres behind them, they home in on the very spot they left over 6 months before. After a long winter, the swallows and spring have returned to Ireland.